Hi, everyone, and welcome to another conversation in Nestin. Today, we are going to talk about the completion of cycles. And in doing so, we'll have the chance to have another look at this 369 framework. So let's see, what is this completion of cycles? In cosmology, cycles, that is, beginning, middle, and completion, are foundational. They manifest at every scale. The cosmic scale, for example, a Big Bang, which is followed by a cosmic expansion, and then the big freeze or crunch or bounce. Current models suggest that the universe began with a Big Bang. I say current models because there are also voices that speak about Big Bang not being the beginning, and other voices that also speak about Big Bangs, plural, insinuating that there was not just the Big Bang everyone knows that started whatever started after that, but there were other Big Bangs before this one in a cyclical way of acting. But let's continue with current models until there is a better model which will be disseminated. So current models suggest that the universe began with the Big Bang, that the universe is expanded. We observe it via redshift, and might end in a big freeze, continual expansion, entropy maximized, or a big crunch, gravitational collapse, or a big bounce, a cyclic rebirth. These all represent a full cycle, a movement from unity, singularity, through differentiation back toward integration. Unity, differentiation, integration, or unity, singularity, differentiation, and back toward unity, integration. We see it in stellar life cycles. A nebula becomes a star, then a supernova, then a black hole or a neutron star, and then the elements are recycled into new stars and new planets. Nothing is wasted. Everything is transformed. This is a principle of cosmic conservation and regeneration. In planetary and biological cycles, the planetary orbits, the seasonal rhythms, and life patterns all follow cyclical time, not linear. Physics shows us that cycles and their completion are not the mystical ideas. They are principles embedded in nature's laws. The second law of thermodynamics, for example. Entropy increases in closed systems, pushing towards equilibrium, a kind of end or completion. However, localized reversals like life arise and complete their own sub-cycles. Interesting. A cycle within a cycle within a cycle without perhaps end? Then from harmonic oscillators, we know that systems like pendulums, springs, or waves show periodicity. They rise, peak, fall, rest, repeating cycles again and again and again. We already spoke about the law of conservation of energy when we said that nothing is destroyed, everything is transformed. The law of conservation of energy speaks about energy that transforms, does not disappear. Transformation is not termination, and the completion is always transition. In quantum field theory, particles constantly emerge and vanish in cycles of virtual energy fluctuations in the quantum vacuum. Even emptiness is cyclical activity. And in loop quantum cosmology, we know that the universe might bounce after collapsing, after completing cycles, not once, but perpetually. The 369 code, popularized by Tesla, is holding the key to the universe. 3, in its symbolic function, identifies with the initiation. And it could be associated with the process of the seed, the impulse, perhaps the spark. And 6 is associated with the symbolic function of development and balance. The associated process is that of growth, tension, and dynamic harmony. While finally, 9 has the symbolic function of completion and return, and the associated process is that of the return to origin, but with new awareness. 9 is the final digit before returning to 0. 10. It symbolizes integration, closure, fruition, or an enlightened return. In digital root math, any number multiplied by 9 reduces to 9. Thus, 9 is unchanging in its multiplicative root, suggesting constancy through transformation. The 9th stage corresponds to the end of stellar lifespans, as already shown. A supernova becomes heavy elements. This leads to planetary birth. Black holes possibly leading to new universes via wormholes. The potential cyclic nature of time is also associated with 9. Big bangs followed by big bounces. In gestation, the human prenatal journey reflects such cosmic cycles. During the first trimester, we have the symbolism, or we see the number 3 at work. The theme is initiation, starting with the zygote at the moment of conception and the first cellular creation, which during the first trimester leads to the initial creation of the human we are. The second trimester could be associated with number 6, development, and we see a lot of differentiation. The organs get balanced, while in the third trimester, this can be associated with number 9, completion. Since during the third trimester, we see the integration of what needs to be integrated so that the human organism can manifest readiness for birth. Similarly, human life cycles, birth, maturation, and death follow this triadic arc exactly the same way as learning, healing, creative work, and millions of others. In a cosmic worldview, the number 9 is not just an end. It's a return with awareness, like a spiral completing a turn, but rising a level. Completion is never static. It prepares for new cycles at deeper or higher levels. As ancient wisdom and modern science both suggest, what completes does not disappear. It transforms. The 3 stages of a cycle, common to cosmology, embryology, systems theory, and consciousness development, are initiation, the co-function is emergence, genesis, the symbol is 3. Its characteristics are conception, spark, potential, direction setting, vulnerability, and inner call. The archetypal theme is birth, ignition. Then the second stage is differentiation, which carries the core function of expansion and development, associated with number 6. Its characteristics are complexity, polarity, growth, tension, choices, adaptation, branching, dualities. The main theme is maturation and individuation. While finally, completion has the co-function of integration and return associated with number 9, and it shows the characteristics of coherence, synthesis, reflection, harvest, decay, wisdom, and preparation for renewal. The archetypal theme is wholeness, fulfillment. Let's see a little bit better the characteristics of completion in stage 9. Integration. What was divided or differentiated is reconnected. Opposites are held together. Male, female, light, dark, inhale, exhale. Systems reach homeostasis or resolve their inner tension. In physics, completion is seen in a system reaching equilibrium. In therapy, we see it as the stage when the inner conflict is balanced. The second characteristic is harvest, revelation. The fruits of earlier processes are visible. There's clarity. Results are obvious. Truth becomes evident. And this may include reaping consequences, both good and challenging. In embryology, near birth, the organism is fully formed and ready to emerge. The third characteristic is dissolution and transition. The structure that held the previous phase breaks down or transforms. Completion contains the seed of the next cycle. Often we observe letting go or return to the source. In stars, supernova explosions are both death and seeding of new matter. Wholeness and retrospection is the fourth characteristic. The full story is now visible. Time becomes spiral rather than linear. Past, present, future feel connected. There's potential for wisdom, forgiveness, and legacy. In psychology, this aligns with the integrative phase of adult maturity. Silence, pose, and grace is the fifth characteristic. completion stage involves stillness before the next movement, often mistaken for end, but it's the holding of a fullness, similar to full moon, ripe fruit, pregnancy at term. The system now either rests or reboots. In Taoism, is the return to the Tao, the undivided unity. In terms of motion, number 3 is starting, and the motion is impulsive. At stage 6, it becomes more complex and expands, while at stage 9, it contracts, motion contracts or synthesizes. The aspect of directionality at stage 3 is from inside to outside. At stage 6 is multidirectional, while at stage 9 it is centripetal, reunification. The aspect of dominant feeling at stage 3 is excitement, perhaps anxiety. At stage 6, there is tension, perhaps ambiguity, while at stage 9, there's clarity, peace, surrender. The aspect of temporal sense at stage 3 is future-oriented, while at stage 6 is present conflict-oriented, and at stage 9, past, present, and future all integrated. In terms of risks, at stage 3 is prematurity, while at stage 6 is fragmentation or polarity, and at stage 9 is either rigidity or refusal to renew. The aspect of energy shape at stage 3 is a spark or a flame, while at stage 6 it is the forking river, the branch, and at the stage 9 it's spiral, circle, or collapse. The metaphor, perhaps, or one of the metaphors for stage 3 is the seed. For stage 6 is the branch. And for stage 9 is the fruit or compost. In the human context, in prenatal development or human life cycles, the completion phase may appear as in gestation, the 9th month, full formation, and the pause before birth. In life, it takes the form of aging, reflection, synthesis of personal meaning. In projects, it's the final stage of manifestation or knowing when to let go. And in ecosystems is the regenerative decay when the nutrients return to soil. Let's see how this these completion cycles manifested in the lives of some significant people. We'll start with Mahatma Gandhi, and let's see his life as a complete cycle. Gandhi was born in 1869 in India under the British rule. He studied law in London, deeply influenced by sacred teachings, texts like the Bhagavad Gita and the Sermon on the Mount. The seed of nonviolence and truth was planted during his early experience with racism in South Africa. Being thrown off a train in South Africa for being Indian was the moment which was at the same time a personal shock that initiated his mission. That was the stage of initiation, the stage of 3, the seed of with a vision. Then Gandhi returned to India and led massive national movements. The Salt March, Quit India, campaigns for self-reliance. He wrestled with inner and outer conflicts, British colonialism, violence in the name of freedom, tensions between Hindus and Muslims. He also differentiated himself from others, refusing political power, wearing simple clothes, experimenting with celibacy and diet, testing the limits of his body and beliefs, holding paradoxes like political activist yet spiritual asceticism, being deeply Indian yet universally human. This was the core dynamic of the second stage, the stage of 6. Then Gandhi had long said, "My life is my message." After India's independence in 1947, he did not take political office. Instead, he worked to heal the communal wounds caused by partition. On January 30th, 1948, he was assassinated by a Hindu nationalist. His death shocked the world, but completed his life's arc. He died for the same values he lived by: nonviolence, unity, truth. His death amplified his message. His life became an eternal archetype of peaceful resistance. And that was the stage of 9. Gandhi's life was a spiral. Gandhi's completion did not close the loop. It opened the path for others. His 9 birthed the new 3s in other movements for justice and peace. Let's see now Marie Curie, a pioneer in science and the feminine principle of completion. Marie Curie was born in Warsaw, Poland in 1867, a time when women were not allowed formal scientific education. As a girl, Maria Sklodowska studied underground in the Flying University, then moved to Paris, Sorbonne, and became the first woman to study physics there. And she met Pierre Curie, whose collaboration would catalyze her mission. Her initiate to remark was a deep inner call to understand nature's invisible forces against gender and political odds. Then, Marie and Pierre Curie discovered radioactivity, polonium, and radium. She coined the term radioactivity. Faced with scientific skepticism and personal loss, as Pierre Curie died in 1906, and faced with constant tension between scientific innovation and social barriers, she had to fight institutional resistance, especially as a woman in a male-dominated academy. She navigated the dualities, feminine versus masculine identity in science, known versus unknown forces in matter, motherhood versus rigorous scientific life. Then she won 2 Nobel Prizes, 1903 in physics, 1911 in chemistry. The only person ever to win in 2 different sciences. Marie Curie founded the Radium Institute, trained a new generation of scientists, including her daughter Irene, who also won a Nobel, and her body became affected by the very thing she discovered. Radiation exposure likely caused her death in 1934. Even in death, her legacy lived on in science, medicine, women's rights, and nuclear ethics. As she used to say, you cannot hope to build a better world without improving the individuals. She inspired generations of female scientists, and she started a spiral of influence. Marie's 9 became the 3 of radiotherapy and cancer treatment, of nuclear physics and ethical responsibility, of women entering science fields, her own children continuing the work. Let's see a mythical entity, Prometheus, the mythical pioneer of human consciousness. Prometheus, a titan in Greek mythology, stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity, an act of empowering human consciousness and technology. Fire symbolizes knowledge, transformation, inner light. As Aeschylus writes in Prometheus Bound, I caused the mortals to cease foreseeing doom. I planted blind hope in their hearts. Then Zeus punishes him by chaining him to a rock, where an eagle eats his liver daily. And daily his liver regenerates every night. This phase, which is the stage of 6, reflects the tensions between knowledge and power, rebellion and divine order. Prometheus becomes the archetype of the suffering pioneer, enduring isolation for the sake of the collective. But eventually, freed by Heracles, Prometheus' suffering turns into mythic legacy. His gift endures. Humanity continues using fire, literal and symbolic, in order to evolve. His sacrifice seeded more questions about power, justice, knowledge. And that was his legacy and liberation at stage 9. His death is endless sacrifice. His gift becomes eternal. His transitions from actor to archetype inspiring literature, science, and ethics are the completion signature. His completion signature. And let's move to our field in prenatal sciences. Michel Odon, the pioneer of primal health and human ecology. In the 1960s-70s, as a young surgeon and obstetrician in France, Odon began noticing patterns in birth outcomes and maternal-infant bonding that did not match what the textbooks described that far. At Pithiviers Hospital, he created a radical innovation: birthing rooms with bathtubs, dim lighting, privacy, an environment resembling mammalian birth needs. He invited the mother to lead, not the doctor. To change the world, we must first change the way babies are being born, he said. His initiation was not just technical, but epistemic, a shift from control to trust in physiological wisdom. As Michel Odon enters stage 6, Michel Odon began writing and researching. He coined terms like primal health, connected birth practices to public health, emotional well-being, and ecological outcomes. He introduced the water bath, emphasizing the role of oxytocin and the importance of undisturbed birth. founded the Primal Health Research Center in London to examine the correlation between perinatal experiences and later life health and behavior. The differentiating forces were resistance from institutional obstetrics, pushback from technocratic and male-centered medicine, tensions between intuition, nature, empirical science. Yet, he kept publishing books, mentoring midwives, doulas, doctors worldwide. As he enters his completion cycle in his 90s, Michel Audin continues to teach, reminding us that how we are born shapes the world. His work has inspired the gentle birth movement, the resurgence of midwifery, neuroscience-based understandings of perinatal psychology, human ecology models rooted in compassion and respect for the primal period. As he says, we are facing a cultural discontinuity. Humans have lost the basic knowledge that birth is an involuntary process. He often speaks about the endangered capacity to love, linking it back to what we protect or don't during the primal period. Dr. Jaap van der Waal, the pioneer of embryological consciousness. Born in the Netherlands, trained in anatomy and embryology. During his early career, he focused on teaching anatomy, but he felt a disconnect between the mechanical body and the living human. That was his stage 3. As he entered the stage 6, he radically reoriented embryology, viewing the embryo not as a structure, but as a movement being forming itself in relation. He introduced concepts like, you are your body, you do not have a body. The body is the human becoming visible. Faced skepticism for blending science, Goethean observation, and philosophy. Now, in the stage of 9, his teachings inspire practitioners, scientists, educators globally. He was recognized in the Hall of Honor 2 years back for his contribution to restoring meaning and dignity to the embryo. He retired from university teaching, but his work continues through recordings, lectures, ongoing programs, books. His completion signature is the shift from scientific authority to poetic philosopher of form. Left a body of work that continues to shape the prenatal sciences movement and transformed the embryo from an object to a subject of reverence. And let's examine Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, the pioneer of death and compassion. The Swiss-American nurse in the psychiatric ward. During her medical training, she was struck by how hospitals hid death and dying. And she began sitting at the bedside of terminal patients, listening to their truths, fears, and insights. That was the stage of 3, the initiation stage of Elizabeth. Then, as she entered the stage 6, she started breaking taboos and building models. Published on Death and Dying in 1969, introduced the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Faced backlash for speaking about death so openly. Speaking about death was a taboo, and advocated for hospice care, pediatric palliative care, and the spiritual needs of the dying. After a stroke in 1995, she said she felt angry like one of her own patients. She died in 2004, and her life's work is now integrated into hospitals, hospices, psychology programs worldwide. She left behind not just the knowledge, but a cultural shift in how we face mortality. It is only when we truly know that we are all dying that we begin to live. That was her completion stage. She died having lived what she taught. Her cycle made death part of life, a sacred shared experience. Her 9 became a portal to more compassionate healthcare and human-centered psychology. Now you may ask, where do I stand? Am I in the 3? Perhaps you can ask a couple of questions. Are you sensing a new cold? A steering? Are you planting seeds no one has yet seen clearly? Is the world around you not quite built for the knowing you are starting to hold? Are you meeting a resistance, not as a sign to stop, but as an invitation to refine? You may be in the initiation stage 3 if you are launching a new way of seeing or doing things, perhaps not fully formed yet. Feeling like a translator between dimensions, disciplines, traditions, still gathering allies, language, safety to name what you are sensing. This state is brave. It holds the pulse of the future before it is visible. Now, you may ask, am I in the 6? Well, are you in the thick of complexity, negotiating tensions, meeting paradoxes? Are you building structure around insight, courses, books, communities, practices? Are you experiencing friction between your inner knowing and the outer systems? Do you feel stretched, asked to hold the space for more than one truth? You may be in differentiation. If you are teaching or transmitting while still evolving your core philosophy, refining your language to reach different audiences without losing essence, experiencing the chaos of transformation as fertile though difficult. This stage is crossbow. It forms the vessel that can hold the light you carry. Am I in the nine? Well, are you harvesting a body of work? Are you being asked to mentor, bless, step back for others to rise? Are you seeing things come full circle in unexpected, sacred ways? Are you more interested in essence than outcome? You may be in completion if you are not just offering knowledge but wisdom distilled through time and trials, holding space for initiations in others, preparing to let go of some forms to let new ones arise, possibly through others. This stage is elderhood, not necessarily by age, but by cosmological posture. When a life passes before now, the cycle completes, whether through premature birth, miscarriage, stillbirth, neonatal death, early childhood death, or even untimely adult death, we are faced with a silence that speaks. What is at work here? In cosmology, not every particle reaches equilibrium. Not every star becomes a galaxy. Not every rhythm closes its loop, but nothing is lost. These lives, though short in time, are not without purpose. They belong to the pattern, not in linearity, but in depth. In Aristotelian terms, entelechy is the inner purpose or end toward which something is naturally striving. For some lives, that purpose is not to express in duration or accomplishment, but in presence, signal, or interruption. A brief life may awaken the heart of a parent, a sibling, or caregiver. It can open societal or systemic questions. Care for the unborn, for example, the fragile, care for the fragile, or for the unrecognized. Change timelines for generations, even through grief. Call for unseen compassion, patience, or awakening. These are invisible ripples, but they are real. In Greek, we have two words, keros και chronos. From a temporal perspective, chronos is the chronological time, how long a person lives, while keros is the right or pregnant moment, fullness, emergence. Some beings may not be here for a chronos completion, but for a keros intervention, the keros of being. Their presence may be a threshold moment, initiating others into a different way of seeing or being, may hold something numinous beyond language, may stir ancestral memories, future commitments, societal shifts. They came for a moment, but changed the atmosphere forever. In many traditions, those who come and go quickly are considered threshold beings, carriers of messages between worlds, reminders of the sacredness of life itself, teachers of mystery, surrender, and impermanence. In some indigenous cosmologies, they are said to bring medicine too strong for this world, come to soften the hearts that had grown cold, or be stars that chose only a brief descent. A premature birth is not a failure, not always a tragedy. Many preterm babies thrive and evolve uniquely, come with intense energies that challenge systems and norms, teach flexibility, presence, the sacredness of fragility. But when a premature baby doesn't survive, the grief is real. Yet their existence still completes something in the cosmic fabric, becomes part of the ancestral cloud, not the lost file. Some beings are too full of eternity to remain in time. So perhaps it is time to look at prematurity from this perspective. Time for practices for holding these lives. Speak their names if they were given. Create rituals of memory, even if nobody was held. Include them in our story, not as footnotes, but as teachers. Trust the cycle is larger than we can see. Even incomplete arcs belong. Premature birth may look like an early disruption, but cosmologically, it might instead be an early differentiation, full of tension and high intensity. A being called forth into complexity sooner than expected. A soul or life form that arrived with compressed timing, like a meteor streaking early across the sky. So, yes, the experience of prematurity resonates with the challenges of stage 3. Intense adaptation, negotiation between systems, lung readiness versus air exposure, dependence on a relational scaffolding, NICO, care teams, parental presence, but they still carry seeds of all three stages. A premature baby is not only in stage 6, they are also initiated. Their very being carries original impulse, differentiating, navigating bodily systems in tension, and containing in stage 9 potential of integration, sometimes through others, parents, community, world. Whether they live a long life or a brief one, their presence activates a cycle in others. So if we are perinatal practitioners, we might gently hold the idea that prematurity is not broken free, but intensified seeks. The baby is not out of time, but in a timeline we do not fully understand. Their needs are not just clinical, but symbolic and cosmic. They call for rhythm, attention, relational repair. This allows for care that respects their capacity, their unique tempo, their participation in the unfolding of life, even if brief or fragile. Let's remember that not all seeds grow in spring. Some bloom in winter storms, some never break the surface, but all change the soil. So a premature baby may reflect the archetype of stage 6, but they also carry the mystery of the full spiral, even if we don't see it complete in time. To be born at 7 months, around 28-31 weeks, is not just a biological fact. It's a statement of timing. And timing in cosmological law always means something. In cosmological terms, 369 cycle, month 7 corresponds with stage 6 differentiation. This is the peak of tension where opposites stretch. The baby is ready to individuate but not yet complete in form. The systems are almost viable but still interdependent with the womb. A 7-month birth suggests a life energy that pushes outward despite unready conditions, a soul or being sensitive to contradiction, safety versus exposure, unity versus separateness. A being whose appearance interrupts the usual pattern, perhaps not by accident. So yes, this is not the result of a random failure, but maybe a meaningful inflection point. What a 7-month baby might say about the lineage. Premature birth at this stage might signal unfinished business in the maternal or paternal line, themes that reach a crisis or turning point around month 7. Possible inherited patterns of sudden separation, exile, early loss, interrupted attachment, high sensitivity to relational conflict or unspeakable grief. The baby's early arrival may represent a soul's willingness to carry or expose these tensions, a chance for the lineage to become more conscious, less shadowed. This baby, becomes a mirror and a mediator of what the ancestors could not integrate. The parents of a 7-month baby may be asked to co-regulate what the womb could no longer hold, may be called to offer presence beyond control, since technology replaces biology for a time. They may be invited into radical surrender and radical bonding, not as fixers, but as guardians of meaning. Such a birth may ask them to repair attachment through skin-to-skin, song, tone, gaze, face their own fears of failure, separation, dependence, engage in ancestral repair through naming, storytelling, and silence honoring. Being born at 7 months may carry an entelechy of bridge building, of holding paradox, fragility and survival, arrival and completion, drawing attention to what is unresolved in systems, medical, emotional, ancestral, teaching others to become more attuned, more present, less mechanical, being a threshold walker born between womb and wound, silence and sound. This entelechy may unfold as a gift for subtle sensing, empathy, pattern recognition, a deep attunement to what is missing or unseen, and drive to complete or fulfill what others abandoned, not out of burden, but as a vocation. A 7-month baby is a baby born before the world was ready or before the world was willing. Came as a question the group could not answer. Not too soon, not too late, but as a signal. And let's say a few words about the child held back, the post-term or delayed birth, associated with stage 9. Whether consciously or unconsciously, due to external delay, maternal fear, tocophobia, for example, or intentional postponement, waiting for an OB or a partner from the part of the mother holding the baby in the womb, or intentional postponement from the part of the baby, all these are cosmologically as significant as in the case of premature birth. The child held back expresses deep timing, tensions in the relational field, and a unique entelechy. A child not being born on time suggests a delay in the transition from inner world to outer world, a possible reluctance or caution in letting go on the part of the mother, the baby, both, a dynamic of containment overriding emergence. And this might happen in cases such as waiting for an absent partner, father, or OB, maternal fear, fear of pain, fear of death, rupture, motherhood, structural or institutional interruptions, hospital scheduling, for example, or a psychospiritual hesitation to enter a world perceived as unsafe. What might this say about the lineage or the field? Just as premature birth may signal ancestral rupture, delayed birth may point to intergenerational patterns of holding back, women silenced, creativity stifled, or over-controlled emergence, timing dictated by authority, or fear of change or consequences of birth in past or present lives. The mother may be relieving or responding to past losses, stillbirths, death in labor, or an abandonment trauma if birth once meant being left alone, or cultural or religious messages about obedience, sin, bodily shame. The baby, too, might be reluctant to enter an emotionally or energetically incoherent field, trying to incomplete something essential in the womb, an imprint, a closure, a repair. In this light, a late, in quotation marks, baby is not delayed, but resisting premature closure of an internal task. This kind of birth invites deep listening, not just measuring dilation, but sensing readiness in soul and body. It, it invites, this kind of birth invites patience, resisting the rush of interventions, and trust that the baby knows something about its own timing, and invites inquiry into the emotional ecology surrounding birth. Is the mother scared? Is the mother alone? Is the mother silenced? Sometimes the delay is protecting the baby from emerging into a disintegrated field. The womb, in this case, may be safer than a field where fear or misalignment awaits. What is the entelechy of such a baby? A baby born past term or under delay may carry a life impulse toward completeness before action, courage to wait when others rush, inner attunement over outer command, discernment of when a threshold is actually ripe. Their gifts may include working with thresholds, transitions, initiations, helping others cross safely, midwives, therapists, guides, holding space until it is whole enough to be born into. These beings may become philosophers, stewards, stabilizers, those who don't act fast, but when they act, they change everything. They carry not rush, but ripeness. They are the fruit that falls when the tree is ready to release it. Now, C-section birth through cosmological lenses. Stage of the cycle. Initiation in 3, beginning of labor, hormonal signaling, and baby's descent. C-section may happen there. Or 6, differentiation, point of no return, crossing the threshold, or completion, natural emergence, or integration. A C-section, especially when unplanned, often marks an interruption of the natural movement through these phases. The birth is not always aligned with the inner rhythm of initiation, transition, culmination. There are types of C-section, and these types matter. We have the elective planned C-section, often before labor starts, with minimal physiological engagement. The unplanned in labor C-section, the labor begins, but it becomes complicated. And the emergency C-section, an abrupt interruption, often traumatic or urgent. The earlier in the labor process the intervention happens, the more abrupt the rupture from the natural birth cycle is. What is at work here? The baby may miss hormonal cascades, so oxytocin, catecholamines that help with lung fluid reabsorption, gut microbiota seeding, bonding, and alertness at birth. The passage through the birth canal also supports compression orientation and early vestibular programming. So, a C-section child may enter the world without rehearsal or gradual transition, like a star pulled from the sky instead of slowly landing. A soul incarnating with a pattern of abrupt emergence or unsought intervention possibly is an ancestral or karmic echo of rescue, emergency, lack of autonomy in transitions, or the soul might choose this path to experience sudden change, learning to ground without orientation, growing strength in environments that lack clarity or preparation. If I wasn't pushed, I may never have landed. A C-section baby might carry an ability to work with rupture and redirection, strength in emergency, speed or complexity, a deep sense of otherness, often exploring identity through contrast or unexpected beginnings, a calling to restore harmony where there's been an interruption. They may become trauma healers, crisis mediators, architects of new ways, people who complete what was never fully begun. They carry a gift, the gift of bridging what was interrupted in themselves, in others, in systems. The 369 cycle is not only about big cosmic or life-spanning cycles. It happens in daily rhythms and smaller processes. Initiation, differentiation, completion. When we put this in everyday life, the basics are for the initiation stage. Set clear intentions at the start of any process, of any day or any project. Be present to the why, the purpose or call that initiates movement and creates space for new beginnings. Pause, breath, mentally open to what wants to emerge. Without conscious initiation, the cycle can stall or become chaotic. When you move to differentiation, 6, development and adaptation. Commit to the process and do it with awareness, flexibility, openness. Face challenges or tensions as natural growth points, not obstacles, and adjust and refine your approach, responding to feedback and changing conditions. Differentiation is the heart of transformation, where energy shifts from idea to form. When you enter the completion cycle, recognize and honor completion, even in small tasks or phases. Reflect on what has been learned, gained, transformed, and allow space to release what is no longer needed and prepare for the next cycle. Completion is not just ending, but preparing fertile ground for new beginnings. Let's do this in Earth life. Let's look at Earth life as a cyclical cosmic process. About 4.5 billion years ago or so, Earth formed from cosmic dust and gases. This is the initiation of the planet as a unique life-supporting system. The early Earth was molten, chaotic, with intense geological activity, setting the foundation, the seed for life. First, the simple life forms, prokaryotes, maybe, appeared around 3.8 billion years ago. This was Earth's biological ignition. In cosmic symbolism, the spark was there. Then over billions of years, life evolved from single-celled monocellular organisms to complex multicellular life. Oxygenation of atmosphere took place around 2.4 billion years ago, enabling aerobic life. Cambrian explosion about 5,040 million years ago signaled the rapid emergence of diverse species. The colonization of land, the rise of forests, insects, reptiles, mammals, humans, Earth's systems, climate, geology, ecosystems became complex, interdependent, and adaptive during the differentiation stage of 6. Then Earth experiences mass extinctions, Permian, Cretaceous, which are completions of cycles, clearing the way for new life forms. And these extinctions are not just endings, but reset, reboot points that allow integration of previous lessons and usher new diversity. On a human time scale, civilizations rise and fall, each cycle teaching humanity deeper lessons about harmony, imbalance, and renewal. Today, Earth is in a critical phase. Some call it the Anthropocene, a moment demanding conscious completion of past cycles and initiation of new sustainable ones. Humans today have accelerated change, causing environmental crises, biodiversity loss, climate change. This could be Earth's 9 stage, a planetary call to complete and sustainable cycles, heal and initiate a new way, what is our role? Can we consider undertaking the role of conscious participation in this completion phase, integrating the wisdom, the knowledge, the ecology that we have attained? Earth's story is a cosmic mirror for human life. Microcosm and macrocosm are intertwined. We experience initiation, growth, and completion in our lives just as Earth does on a grander scale. The laws governing cosmic rhythms guide both planetary evolution and individual life journeys. Our awareness of these patterns empowers us to align consciously with natural cycles, fostering healing and sustainability. Thank you. See you next time.